So we keep hearing this metaphor about the new phone, like it's like buying a Ferrari, they argue, which is wonderful and it goes really fast, but the roads in your village don't support those kinds of speeds and that's the equivalent, they say, of what carriers have done in terms of 5G coverage. Do you see, is that relevant to you?
Well, I think, eventually you're going to have this, and very few people have these phones, right? Everyone has the pretty slow phone. So there's a big uptake in getting people to convert. And this stuff is getting rolled out. It's just early, just like a lot of things. You have a better computer than the internet, et cetera, et cetera. So I guess it's like a Ferrari. I didn't know you lived in a village, though. It's nice for you to do that. But I do think it's fine for them to make these upgrades now, because getting people used to the idea that they need a faster phone is important. From a consumer mentality, they also want to sell more phones, obviously. And so if you say this is the most hopped up, best speed, and you'll be able to use it once we get these networks widely distributed, it's not a bad selling point to get people to upgrade to these phones. I mean, it's another selling point. Yeah. That's what they have to do. So.
Right. Josh mentioned that line out of Morgan Stanley that it's the most important iPhone event in years. You agree?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's really interesting to see what they're going to do in terms of I'm more interested in the lower price phones and sort of giving people the larger phone. Apple really sort of, this is what you're going to get. We're going to serve you this, and this is all you're going to get. And it shows, how much more flexible they are in terms of the choices you make. And I do think a lot of Apple customers do want more choices than they've been able to over the years, even if the top end ones are so incredibly expensive. And of course, they're the ones that early adopters will use, or people that just want the latest iPhone, like myself. Honestly, I'll probably buy the upgrade. But we'll see. We'll see how much uptake people have, especially coming out of a pandemic. People may feel a real affiliation to all their technology, since they needed to use so much of it during the past year and into next year, too.
Right. Yeah, Kara, I'm going to be contrary just because I like to be.
Sure.
I don't think this is the most important iPhone upgrade in years. I think next year is going to be more important because the 5G networks aren't ready. So I think the 5G, for a lot of people, it's like, well, if I want to be future-proof, if I want to be ready for when these networks are available, then I'll buy this. But Apple needs to have other stuff to sell this, because if people expect to buy it for 5G speeds, they're going to hear pretty quickly they're not there.
Yeah, but they've been trading on other things like the AirPods or the cameras or things like that. So they sort of need a new story in terms of where it's going. And I think it's not a bad story to get started now. It makes a lot of sense. And the 11 did pretty well, right? I mean, they had a bit of a different story on that one. And it is a better phone. And so just marginally better isn't enough. And so they need a story that's more compelling. And the 5G story is a compelling one over time, as long as they add on other things, the other products that they're going to introduce, so they feel innovative and fast forward moving. And I do like the range of phones. I think it's much more important for people than you realize.
Yeah.
Especially the smaller phone and the more expensive phone on both sides.
I do think this is hugely important for the carriers who need 5G phones out there to build out their networks. I don't know if this is the one they subsidize or not. Also important for some component makers like Samsung on the screens, and with the memory like Sony with the image sensors that back these cameras. I mean, the cameras and the screens are going to have to really sell this, as they have for the past few years.
Yeah, but the others are already there. And so Apple is not late to this party. They're sort of later to the party, and it's okay if they get there now. I think waiting longer might be problematic for them. And so why not do this? And it gets people ready for this idea, and gets people ready for that Apple is there, too, along with the other phone makers.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.